As many of you guys already know, is that this car has been through quite some experiments, and a lot of people have been saying to me that, you know, your car is ruined and I would never buy this car, you know, used. I feel sorry for the person who buys it, back and forth. But truth be told, and I've made a video about this already, is that there's nothing wrong with this car. I mean, the transmission is fine, the fuel pump is fine, you know, my key fob is fine, my undercarriage is fine from taking it mudding. Point being that those videos have not caused this car harm. However, it has now been damaged, and it is self-inflicted by me. And to be honest, I've been embarrassed to say anything. I was planning on fixing it, not making a video about it, and just having that problem solved, because I do see myself as a good driver. So I'll tell you a little story about how this actually happened. It was actually a while ago. My wife and I were going to the airport. We were going on a trip, and we were in a bit of a hurry, a little late, and I was going to find long-term parking at the Pittsburgh International Airport. The airport was packed, so there wasn't a lot of parking spots available close to the actual airport walking into the terminal. And I was seeing that, sorry, I know this is so stupid, but I was seeing that a lot of other cars, they were parking where you shouldn't really park, but it seemed to be okay because it's not like they had any parking tickets that I could see, at least. So what I chose to do was to park on, say, like a side curb outside of the last parking spot in a parking row. So I go ahead, try to back on to, one part was a curb and one part was actual free spot, but it wasn't a full parking spot. It's hard to explain this. I don't have any real footage of it because we were in such a hurry at the time. I didn't have my dash cam at that time either, so I didn't capture any of this on video. So upon pulling up to this parking spot, which wasn't actually a parking spot, there was a sign on that curb or sidewalk slash curb saying parking or something like that. You know what? The damage is on this side of the car, so we're just going to move it over there. So while pulling up to this parking spot, I thought I was keeping my distance to the pole with the parking sign on it that was on the curb where you're not supposed to park. So, you know, obviously the reason for me not saying this sooner or making a video about it is because it's a stupid mistake, and it's kind of embarrassing. So anyhow, I pull up on this curb slash parking spot, and while I'm doing that, everything is going kind of fine. I had to pull up on the curb, so I'm doing it really slowly so I'm not messing up my wheels or tires or anything. So there's a car on this side of my vehicle that's actually parked in a parking spot, and I guess that my concentration and focus was more on the car there, so I wasn't, you know, bumping into that car. I wasn't too close to that car, so whenever the driver came back from his trip and wanted to get into his vehicle, I wasn't parked this far away and he couldn't get in. While all this is happening, I'm losing sight of the parking pole that was pretty much located right where I'm standing. And what ends up happening is that I back into this pole on the passenger side of my car. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at what actually happened, the damage that occurred on my car. While it's not a huge dent or a big scratch, it is a dent and a scratch that is going to obviously need to be fixed before I return this car, as it is a lease. Because either way, it's going to end up biting me in the ass if I don't take care of this. I'm going to have to end up paying for it. So let's take a look at the actual damage. All right, so as you guys can see here, it is mainly on the passenger side door. There's a little bit here on the front passenger side door as well, where paint has scuffed off. But here on the rear passenger door is where the main damage is. So it is dented in, plus paint has been scraped off, obviously, because what ended up happening is that I rubbed up against the pole while I was backing up. So it dented the door here, plus there's a pretty long scratch all across the door. Now, as I mentioned already, this isn't a huge damage, but it is enough that I will need a body shop and repainting of my door. It's not like these scratches buff out, and I don't want it to be like a half-assed job where you're just doing some paint correction to the car. So after all this had happened, I mean, we were at the airport. We were supposed to catch a flight. There was nothing I could do about it at that time. And again, it's not, you know, this huge damage that happened. I didn't back into someone else's car, or, you know, there wasn't other people involved. It was just myself, my stupidity, and the stupid pole. So the pole didn't really care. It's more my car. So we end up just leaving the car and taking our luggage and walking into the airport. And while we get close to the entrance of the airport, of course, a car has just left right by the entrance. So I run back, get the car, and park it a lot closer to the actual airport. But, you know, I mean, which is kind of like, you know, I mean, couldn't we have seen this parking spot before I ended up trying to back up on half of a curb into half of a parking spot and hitting a pole? But, you know, things happen, and you know, you learn from them, and you're not supposed to park on a curb and where there's poles and stuff. Shit happens. Which now brings me to having to fix the car. Obviously, it is a lease, it's going to be returned, and if there's damage on the car, I'm going to have to pay for it in the end anyhow. So obviously I'm going to fix it beforehand, which brings me to insurance. I will not be telling my insurance company that this happened. Now, why am I not going to be telling my insurance company? Because if I do so, it might take a hit on my insurance premium, and I don't want that. So what is my alternative? My alternative is to obviously contact the body shop and someone that can, you know, do the paint work for the car. It's probably going to cost me a little more than a deductible would be from my insurance. And there's another reason why I don't want to tell the insurance company, because when you do, if there's any kind of damage on your car, let's say it's just something simple like, you know, someone else ran a shopping cart into your door while you're at Walmart or something, and you have your insurance company fix it. Maybe there's a little dent, there was a scratch, it needs repainted here and there, and you tell your insurance company what happened. I mean, not your fault, or if it was self-inflicted, it is your fault, doesn't really matter. What ends up happening is that the insurance company has to report that to Carfax or AutoCheck, and then you have a accident indicator on your car. Now, for me, it's a lease. I mean, it doesn't really matter as much to me, I guess, but it actually does matter for whoever ends up buying this car after I've had it, because the car will then have an accident indicator on it. Now, from my experience of working in the car business, that can be a pain to people, because when you bring your car in to a dealership, let's say you want to trade it in for another car, and an accident indicator is found on your vehicle, Carfax or AutoCheck, the most common vehicle history reports that are used at dealerships, will indicate that there's an accident on your car. Now, it doesn't really specify what happened. It doesn't say, well, shopping cart, tiny little ding, fixable in like 5 seconds type thing. It doesn't say that. It says accident and then the date of what happened. Now, if it was a major accident, it might indicate if your vehicle needed towing or, you know, it wasn't drivable, that kind of thing. But it won't specify exactly what happened. Now, when you're a consumer that's going to a dealership looking to buy a used car and you see an accident indicator on the Carfax, for most people, that's a no-no. And they always want to know, so what happened? And it's hard to explain exactly what did happen, because a vehicle history report doesn't really report the full extent of what happened to the car. It only says accident and then the date. So I honestly don't want whoever gets this car after me have to deal with that issue. It's worse enough that they might find these videos on the internet of all the stuff that I've done to the car and then be like, hell no, I don't want to buy this car. Although there's nothing wrong with it, because I drive it every day, it acts just fine. People think that I beat cars up like crazy, but I don't. The experiments that I've done to the car so far has not caused any damage. So what is this going to end up costing me to fix? I don't really know that. I'm guessing it's going to be around $1,500 or something like that, because the dent needs to come out. The car is going to need, you know, painted to really make it look like nothing happened. And like I said, it's a tiny little thing. It's not some major accident. It's not like the frame's bent or anything. It's pretty minor. But for me, it was a little bit of a blow to my manly ego, I guess, of thinking I'm a perfect driver and everything, because it was a stupid mistake, and it happened while I was going literally, 1.5 miles an hour. So besides my ego and my wallet, the car obviously is going to be perfectly fine. There's not going to be an issue with it. But as I mentioned, it happened a while ago. I've been too embarrassed to make a video about it, but here it is. It's really the only damage that has happened to the car during the over 2 years that I've had it. And now it needs fixed. I don't really know when I'll be fixing the car. As you could tell yourself, it's not major damage. This car has been in several videos after this happened, and I haven't seen a single comment where someone's like, hey, what happened to your car there? But visually, I see it all the time because I know that it's there. I haven't had anyone else see it and make a comment on it. But, obviously there's the issue of I don't want rust to start happening there. It's gonna have to be taken care of here pretty soon. So please leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any advice for me, and I'll gladly take it and we'll go from there. So before we end this video, just keep in mind, when you go car shopping for a used car, whether it's at a used car lot somewhere or a dealership, just because the Carfax or the auto check, whatever vehicle history report you're looking at, says that it's never been in an accident, it doesn't mean that it's never had any kind of ding or anything that's been fixed on it. It's just what's reported to the insurance company that will be showing on the vehicle history report, because the insurance companies are required to report to Carfax if a claim came in and the car was fixed. That's when it's reported on the vehicle history reports. So I don't really want that for a secondary owner of this car. And it being such a minor little thing that it's going to be fixed pretty easily, I'd rather just take care of it on my own, or out of my own pocket, so to speak. Trust me, I won't be doing any work. Oof, car will be a lot worse. But anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this little update video on my car. If you have any additional questions, leave them in the comment section below. If you have any advice for me, leave that in the comment section below as well. If you're bumping into the channel for the first time through this video and you haven't already, please subscribe. Remember to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all at AutoVlog. Links are provided in the description below. Until next time, bye-bye. Plane again. Always these planes in my video. Trying to buy a used car and you see an accident and I don't really know when I'll be fixing the car. But before we end this video, here, just keep in mind when you go car shopping. So before we end this video here, just keep in mind that when you do